This semi headed eastbound on the turnpike tipped and crashed into the median just over the border into Fulton County. It's still here, and so is its load. Looks like it was hauling steel coils. Diane, we found that the biggest piles of snow are in the parking lot at Walmart. We're in Sylvania Township on the Central Avenue Strip. This is about 1 month worth of snow, and there's more to come. The sleds flew across this ditch, which is easily 14 feet wide. One of them made it. The other two hit the other side. Hard.
13 ABC's Tony Geftis is on the scene outside Arcadia in Hancock County. And Tony, what's the latest on the cleanup effort down there?
The worst is over, Lee, but they are not out of the woods just yet. You can see the tracks are mostly cleared of those burned out rail cars, but there are still 3 in the way, and one of them still on fire. As the cleanup of this massive train wreck continues, firefighters continue to hose down one remaining tanker.
I have 6 tankers here shuttling water.
At 5 o'clock this evening, that last of the ethanol tanks was still on fire. Nearly 24 more burned out, drained, or exploded after a derailment rocked the farmlands outside Arcadia around 2:30 Sunday morning. That brought out more than 100 firefighters, plus contractors hired by Norfolk Southern, not to mention the Red Cross.
Food and coffee, sodas, Gatorade, whatever they need, we try to give to them.
Tonight, firefighters need water, not to drink, to spray.
That's our main concern, is just keeping that tanker cool right now because it is burning. We're keeping the outside of it cool.
If it stays cool, firefighters may be able to keep another fireball from erupting and get this rail line back on track. If all goes well, volunteers should be able to head home in a few hours, and the track, which carries roughly 80 to 90 trains per day, can get repaired by the morning. Live in Hancock County, Tony Geftis, 13 ABC Action News. Diane, some are keeping their doors locked and keeping an eye out for each other after a grisly scene inside this house. These pictures show John Clark and Lisa Straub in the prime of life. Lisa was 20, taking nursing classes at Owens Community College. Johnny was 21, and his mom says studying to be a barber.
And I talked to him at 8 o'clock at night, and he was like, I'm going to go pick up Lisa from work. We're going to go to her house, Mom, and we're going to have, have some friends over.
That night turned into a scene out of a horror movie. Around 1 in the morning, Johnny's mom started getting phone calls from her son's friends.
She was talking to Johnny, and it sounded like there was a struggle in the background.
Hours later, Johnny Clark's parents found his body alongside the body of Lisa Straub. They were inside her home in Springfield Township, tied up with bags over their heads. Lisa's parents were away on a cruise.
It's got to be somebody that these kids knew. They must have been let in the house by them. This was premeditated. Somebody went there with the intent to kill them.
I think a lot of people move to suburban areas just to kind of stay away from that.
Jesse Temple moved to this neighborhood in August. He's with the Ohio National Guard and says his neighbors are now on guard.
I think everybody's been kind of quiet about the subject. Other than that, I think everybody's just trying to make sure everybody's safe and keep doors locked and stuff like that.
Meantime, the search for a killer continues, and a mother's grief turns to anger.
I hope you rot in hell. I hope you rot in hell. That's my message to you. I hope whoever did this to my son has the worst, horrible death and rots in hell.
I called the Lucas County Sheriff's Office tonight. Still no word on any leads or any suspects. Live in Springfield Township, Tony Geftis, 13 ABC Action News. Welcome to Luke's Bar and Grill in Bluffton, where a YouTube clip of surveillance video is already a smash on the internet.
I was thinking maybe a cabinet fell or something.
The one customer had his chair up like it was a lion, you know?
Yeah, the insurance hasn't called me back yet because they didn't believe me on Friday.
Seeing is believing. Friday afternoon around 2:30, a buck went bounding through the front window. As you can see, it scrambled to gain footing, flailing and falling, punching holes in chairs and breaking a table.
The senior citizen center across the street, they said they seen the deer, but they didn't see where it went. Well, it went in the window.
That window is now covered with plywood and signs, 2 beers for a buck and no hunting. Back to that surveillance video, another angle shows one employee climbing on top of the bar. That's Danielle Wire, who says she was getting emails, text messages, and phone calls about this now infamous clip and her reaction to the deer.
When it went to that side of the bar, I jumped over the bar this side because I figured that was my best bet, was to stay as far away from the deer as possible.
The video goes on, showing the buck slipping and skidding its way down an aisle, its hooved legs falling out from under it on the hard floor. When the deer gets to a door, it stops and appears to consider another way out. That's when kitchen manager Roy Rail springs into action. He ran through the kitchen and around to the back door. Rail tried to prop it open, then went inside to hold open a second door. Moments later, he's back outside running, with the deer not far behind.
It was an adrenaline pumping situation. I don't know if I was nervous, more or less shocked though, that there was a deer in the restaurant. That's the last thing I would ever expect.
In the end, no one was hurt, and the deer was nowhere to be found. Friday was also the owner's birthday. He wasn't there at the time, but when he got the phone call, he thought it was a prank. Live in the Action News Center, Tony Geftis, 13 ABC Action News. We are inside the Regency Ballroom in the Hyatt in downtown Columbus, and right now we are having people coming to the podium behind us, but we are still waiting to hear from the governor, Ted Strickland. This has been an evening that started off on a high note. We heard from Sherrod Brown, the senator. He came out and said he is proud to be a Democrat, and then shortly thereafter, he introduced Lieutenant Governor Lee Fisher, who conceded the race to Rob Portman a mere hour and a half after the polls closed. And I had a chance to speak with Lieutenant Governor off camera, off of the podium there, and ask him about when we sponsored the Senate debate in Toledo and what had happened, what had transpired between the time when we had that debate and the time tonight, what led to this outcome this evening. And he said simply it was more ads on the television, more people saw those advertisements than saw the actual Senate debate. So he had hoped that people had tuned into our debate and heard more of what he had to say. But tonight, we are still waiting to hear from the governor. The race is extraordinarily tight. Last we heard, 85% of the precincts were reporting in. And right now, 49% Kasich, 47% Strickland. So we are still waiting to hear from Strickland himself, and we will bring that to you as soon as he comes through those curtains behind me. For now, live downtown in Columbus, Tony Geftis, 13 ABC Action News. Yeah, Lee, last week when this happened, the roads were a little worse than they are tonight, but this just goes to show how quickly they can turn and you can lose control. In an instant, a car is off the road and a state trooper is down. This crash happened early last week. It sent Sergeant Christopher Kinn to the hospital with a concussion, head laceration, fracture in his left leg, and torn ligaments in both knees. Tuesday, January 11th, around 12:30 in the afternoon, Sergeant Kinn was southbound on I-75 in Allen Township, north of Findlay. He was looking for a woman who had slid off the road. As this dash cam footage shows, Kinn, who's 31, drives up on two cars in the ditch, then backs up the shoulder to the one with a person inside. Traffic barrels by on the left, while on the right, the trooper takes pictures of the car. Then, off camera, another driver loses control and runs into Kinn. The sergeant ends up on the snowy ground. You can see him struggle to move, trying to stand up, which he does with the help of the woman in the first car. Another officer radios in, saying he saw that car leave the road, but could not see Kinn.
When I passed this location, a vehicle went off the road on his right side. I didn't see him sitting in the car. I'm going to head back and check.
Moments later, we hear from Kinn.
Boy, Green 31A, I'm hurt.
Within minutes, officers and firefighters arrive and carry the trooper away. Another ambulance then pulls up to take away the driver that slid into Kinn. That driver was cited for failure to control. And this video shows just how dangerous it can get on the side of a slick highway during a snowstorm in Northwest Ohio. I spoke with the lieutenant out of the Findlay Post. He says Sergeant Kinn is still at home recovering, but he is expected to be okay. Live in Toledo, Tony Geftis, 13 ABC Action News.